be like drinking Soylent out of a straw to do it in VR.
Okay. I don't have enough fingers, man. There we go.
You split your two trucks or hands over the Quest with the camera.
Yeah, although we could eat our steak and then in real life, and then eat our steak in virtual reality. So we would have like a dinner table in virtual reality, and it feels like dinner.
Yeah, you have to try it. I have to try it too, but I don't know if it's working in game or.
Oh no, I'm putting the thought in right now. Yeah.
I don't even know where
So
the
I think
camera
like
is
one
on.
way to do it would be to like maybe
There's
someone's already programmed
little
around,
camera on my Quest.
like where you can just
Don't you?
What's the
meet and
safety?
talk to
Would you have a
people
Quest, right?
without
Okay, hold on.
having an auditorium like this.
Okay, hold on.
You.
Hold on.
It shouldn't be hard to find the camera on it, right?
Oh no, I can't choose things anymore though.
Yeah, because you don't need to.
No, I see it, except my
Okay, they have
pointer is gone. Like,
kitchen,
it can't
But they
point.
are there.
Yeah,
Otherwise
but
it
I don't
wouldn't
know
work.
where they
Yeah.
are, so.
But I mean, of course, this wouldn't be the.
Nope.
I mean, you could make a
Can't
better.
turn it on
In the
right now.
front.
I'm not gonna
For
mess
that, yeah,
around
purpose.
in case the thing gets lost. Oh,
Emzy
look,
have a race
chair
too.
under the table.
But so there's a way to like tell it to just track your hands.
Do you
without
use
controllers?
VR?
Yeah, it looks like, but I didn't try it.
I've
But they
used it
asked me
before,
if
but
I
I
want to
haven't,
try it, and
I haven't like
basically
played video games, so I've
they
only used
just
this app.
Oh,
film
got my
it.
pointer back.
it's
kind of-
very
it's
simple.
kind of a
It's,
weird
No, but
world.
how do you
uh,
use
in here,
Oh,
like
but
where's the setting?
yeah,
Sorry.
I
Oh,
wasn't ahead of time
but
to
it's
actually
inside the
do some
Quest
programming
global,
that's
so
related to VR,
There we go.
and
I wasn't
actually be able
passing
to,
inside
Okay.
find more
space, but
interesting.
Wait.
and I didn't enable
Too many
it
hold on, I can't
because I
start
won't be
right
there
now.
at time. But
World.
maybe I have to try it next time.
Oh,
Okay.
I think it's a
Oh,
new
boy.
video, by the way.
Samson.
Where's Udi?
I don't know if I'm supposed
Karate
to say.
time.
Yeah,
There,
you can
behind
keep
the
that
desk.
to yourself,
There we go.
but I'm sure he'll
We're going
loudly
boxing.
he'll be talking
We're
about it.
boxing, dude.
Soon
Eventually.
But yeah, I just I feel like until my kids
Accept-
grow up and move
I
out,
don't even know how.
yeah, I'm like I want to spend time with them instead of
Oh, yeah.
virtual reality. But
My
maybe that'll change.
What the fuck?
my three left.
Right
Yeah,
there.
that's it. Calls this.
He's behind the desk. Oh, he's
Yeah,
gone.
that's funny.
It would be
Yeah,
pretty
my-
cool if,
one of
like,
those-
if you,
I
like,
have
Alright.
touch someone
My
and it
parents
gets a
are
little
taking
rumble,
care of my kiddo
like,
right
you know,
now.
like a person, like,
Hey,
Great.
okay, so I'm good to go.
Udi,
Alright,
Yeah.
Waxwing messaged me asking if I could invite him, but I can't.
Where is
But-
he?
You should be
Oh, he's
able
gone.
to swing will be.
I don't
Yeah,
know how.
let's see. Let's see if I can
Oh,
find him.
Let's see.
I'll just shoot him a message. I found him.
request.
He's online.
Okay, I sent him an invite.
Okay.
Yeah, just put him
I
on.
have
I
Waxwing
did it.
as a friend.
Click like the come
I did
here
it.
button.
I did it.
That's it.
Yeah,
I
they
only
did.
saw a go-to button. I didn't see a come here button.
Oh, is that because you didn't RSVP?
So
Right.
maybe
Come
I
visit.
don't
It's
have.
called come visit.
I didn't have
I
that.
just messaged you with the come visit button.
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's funny because it actually looks like Udi's holding his phone.
Does it?
Yeah, you were doing
Oh,
something.
by the
like
way,
you're
Pierre,
like-
I sent you the tweet. If you feel like we're tweeting.
I retweeted it.
Ah, you're a professional.
Well, I get paid to do this. So.
Okay. So, look, you can amplify your voice now, and I'm just gonna mute all of those people,
What
and then we'll
happened
start.
to your baller jacket, Johnny?
Oh, yeah, you did have a baller
Thanks,
jacket.
Udi.
I found my normal hoodie that I normally wear for this thing.
Mm,
How do
You look pretty good though.
There we go.
thank you.
All purple.
Okay, that's enough. Stop talking. We're beginning. Yes. Okay. So, hey. Hello. I just wanted to grab your attention. I'm Udi Wertheimer. I know you can't recognize me in my new clothes or whatever that is. But
Looking
that's
good.
me. Thank you, sir. And this is Reckless VR number 723, or some other number. I don't actually keep count. I have no idea. But it's great to see all of you. And we're doing this every weekend. So if you're watching this not here for some reason, if you're watching this on Twitter or YouTube, then you should know that you don't need even a VR headset. You can just join on your PC And you can go to recklessvr.com and sign up, and you'll get an invite every week, or just follow reckless_VR on Twitter, or join the Reckless VR group on Telegram. There are tons of ways to get notified every week, so don't miss it. We have pretty good meetups, if I could say so myself. So yeah, and so behind you, there's the camera guy person flying above. It used to be a robot, but they don't have bots anymore in the new system, so it's just a blue guy. So you can wave to it. Just don't obstruct the view, and try not to move around too much during the conversation, because it might distract me, I guess. Yeah, and yeah, so today we're joined by Pierre Rochard. You can see that's him, and Pierre's doing a lot. So Pierre is Bitcoin strategist at Kraken. He's also the co-founder of the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute. He's the co-host of the Noted podcast. He's the founder of Bitcoin Advisory. He's the maintainer of the Lightning node launcher and the Lightning power users stuff, kind of. A lot of accomplishment, Pierre.
Well, we can talk about the current state of
the
node launcher, but
we will.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So thanks for showing up in your new appearance. It's great. Love the beard.
Thank you.
I wanted to start with the beard. What's with the beard, man? What's going on there?
So I started growing the beard, at the start of this coronavirus lockdown. Not because I was going to run out of razor blades. I have a lot of razor blades. But just wanting to be, part. I want to be contemporaneous. I want to be modern, and I want to be, following the latest trends. And it became clear to me that, in any kind of apocalyptic scenario like this, right, like a pandemic, that all men and people transitioning to being men, or whatever the politically correct thing to say is, should grow beards.
You can't say that. Stop. This is a safe space, Pierre. But okay. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Well, let me be clear that my views don't reflect the views of my employer, which allows me to say anything I want without getting canceled.
True. I mean, I'm not sure that's accurate, but we'll find out by the end of the talk if you're going to get canceled or not.
Okay,
so
let's find out.
So, look, where are you based these days? Or if that's public information.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty public at this point. That I'm in Texas, Austin, Texas.
Yeah, and what's like the COVID situation in Texas right now?
I mean, I heard that it's getting worse and that there's like a second wave happening. Now, I personally have not been affected by it. We have friends, families that have been affected by it, so we know of some cases, but yeah, it's very disappointing that it's July and it is not under control, seemingly. I thought that this would be under control by now.
Yeah, that's true. I can feel that. But look, you're a pretty opinionated guy. I don't know if anyone told you this, but that's my impression.
No, first time hearing this. Is that good or bad?
It is what it is. Everyone has their own characteristics, I guess. But look, early on when this whole COVID thing started, you talked a lot about how officials used to say that we shouldn't wear masks, that they're not good for us, maybe they're even bad for us. And I'm wondering, like you were kind of making fun of that. And I'm wondering what's your position these days? Like, how do you think it should be mandated? Like, there should be a mandate to wear masks, or are you like not in that group?
Yeah, I feel
I'm going to move
to
Bitcoin stuff in a moment.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I do wear a mask or a face covering, a cloth face covering, a balaclava, really, when I'm out in public. But I don't expect others to do it. I feel like it protects me well enough that I don't need others to also put on a mask if that's not what they're into, if that's not what their risk assessment is. My frustration with the politicians and with really, even the official health authorities who are saying, hey, look, don't wear a mask, save it for the healthcare workers. It was like, okay, but we're confusing the issue of, having this scarcity of medical grade masks with, the physics of filters and particles. Like, it seemed pretty obvious to me that a respiratory illness like this would benefit from having any form of filter between humans, whether it's a cloth mask or N95 respirator. So
That's some
anyway,
very critical thinking right there.
well, and then there was all the nonsense around it, right? Of people being like, well, you'll touch your face, and also they don't work.
True.
And it's actually worse to wear one. And I was like, all right, I give up. Honestly, I give up. And because, everyone, the media, politicians, they were all like repeating these like crazy talking points where it would just seem completely disconnected from reality to me. And then they went the totally opposite direction of, we have to, like, if you're not wearing a mask, the police should kill you. Like, that's kind of the current thinking, is that if you put yourself at risk for COVID-19, the police should kill you immediately. So I think that's a little extreme, but that's, I guess, what people have decided is the right approach at this point.
At the very least, it should be canceled, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about cancel culture. I think that's been a big topic, but it's partly Bitcoin related, right? We've got a good cancel culture in Bitcoin.
Yeah, we do. It's different in Bitcoin, though. We're canceling people for other reasons. I'll get to something related to that. I'll get there. Okay. So look, that's fine. I guess one last thing before I go to strictly Bitcoin stuff is a bit about Twitter. So we had the Twitter hack a few days ago, and a lot of people like to punt about the Twitter hack, I guess. Some people are saying that Twitter should move to Ethereum, which is, I guess, an opinion. People are allowed to have opinions. But also, so some people are saying that just Twitter isn't any good and we should leave it. So there's an interesting post from Balaji today, actually. And he's saying that people should just have their own audiences outside of Twitter, just collect emails from people, start a newsletter, and try to not use Twitter because it's bad for you, and Twitter controls your audience and it's not good for you, which is, I can kind of relate to that. And so you're very active on Twitter. You're also like very active on other platforms. Like you have the Nakamoto Institute, which publishes a lot of articles all the time for years. You have your podcast. You have a lot of stuff going on. So what's your thought on Twitter and the control that it has over like audiences, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you keep your Overton window within a certain spectrum, you're not going to get kicked off of Twitter. You just have to not say the wrong things. And
True.
I have not found that to be a challenge, to not say the wrong things, because I'm really interested in concepts that, I guess, if the right mobs knew like what the consequences of these concepts were of saying like savings technology, then maybe they'd be able to add that as hate speech or something. But so far, it's okay to say
happen.
that yeah, and it might be like it might become illegal to say that politicians are corrupt. They might be like, well, you're undermining public order by doing that. And it's been illegal, before to criticize kings, for example. And so they might try to do that if they feel like, oh, this, I don't know. In the U.S. specifically, I think that we've got good enough freedom of speech that I'm not worried about getting canceled personally, even though and then there's the question of, what is Twitter? Like, people think that it's a public utility that everyone has a God-given right to participate on and to homestead and establish property rights on. And I think that's just not matched up with reality. But they could eventually have the political power to make that reality, right? I've heard of people like trying to make it so that if they're going to kick you off of Twitter, there has to be an appeals process. You know, they got to go through the legal system because they're taking your property or something. I don't know. At the end of the day, like, to me, Twitter owns the servers, and so we can kind of derive the property rights from there. And they have a right to curate their service, right? Because if they don't curate their service, then you're going to get spammed to death. You're going to get denial of service attacked. So already they have to make some decisions around spam where nobody disagrees. Like, everyone's perfectly fine with people who are impersonators getting deplatformed, right? And I've had impersonators of myself, you know, who go into your DMs pretending to be me to get you to send Bitcoin to them. Like, I don't have any problem with those people getting permabanned. That seems uncontroversial. And I don't see what the argument would be for keeping them around. You know, it's like free speech.
Yeah, I think that's universally accepted that they shouldn't be there.
And then it's like, where do we draw the line, right? Because there's all this gray area of, hey, you know, this person's starting mobs that start harassing users, right? Is that, you know, in a gray area? Is that okay? Is it okay to do that? Is it, you know, that's where I think that they got to develop some kind of clear cut, or part of the problem is that all of these decisions, it feels like, get made by customer support at some frontline level. And then if it's a problem, it gets escalated to management. But it's in a legal system, normally, like, you start accumulating precedent. And so then you can say, all right, well, if I do this on Twitter, I know I'm going to get my account removed. And I feel like they're not very consistent about enforcing their rules or making their rules clear. And it just creates a culture of fear where now it's like, all right, I don't know what the next thing is going to be that, you know, my account is going to get deleted. So I need to be self-sovereign. I need to get my domain name and my ghost account. And there I completely agree with Balaji that if you want to make yourself more cancel resistant, that having your own domain name is like step one, because it takes a lot for them to take your domain name away if you pay for it and you keep it current. You know, I've heard of Cloudflare removing like Stormfront or something. It was like this neo-Nazi, you know, website. So it's definitely possible to get deplatformed on DNS, but I don't.
But then you
do
can just
anything
move
that
to another one, right?
controversial.
But then you can just move to another provider. Like, the domain is still yours. Like,
Yeah, I didn't really follow up on that story because I'm not interested in neo-Nazi websites. But you know, I think that the threshold for getting your DNS removed is really high. You gotta be doing something pretty illegal.
Yeah, and I think, you know,
Death threats. Yeah,
and I think that even if you're not super scared of getting canceled, which is reasonable, then you still, like, Twitter is still this mediator that stands between you and the people that you're trying to interact with. And, you know, so you're going to tweet something. Obviously, not all of your followers are going to see it. Just a small fraction of them will, actually. And if you have like a mailing list, then you can reach out to everyone immediately. So that's obviously a benefit. But also it has a lot of downsides. Like, people are much less likely to subscribe to a mailing list than to follow you on Twitter, obviously.
Yeah, honestly, my biggest criticism of Twitter is not my concerns about self-sovereignty and getting canceled. It's about the product and the features they have and the limitations where, you know, like, their messaging app stinks. How come I can't search my DMs with a specific person? And I mean, just across the board, there's been a complete lack of, you know, improving the product experience for people who have large audiences, but also for people who have, you know, a smaller account or whatever. Like, there's a huge amount. I don't know. I feel like they don't think about that stuff. And now I hear that they're going to try monetizing where you would have to subscribe to someone to follow them. I think that's not like what Twitter is, but it's a good experiment, so we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Yeah. Okay, that's enough about Twitter. Let's talk about the cryptocurrency. Let's say Bitcoin. So okay, so look, you have actually a pretty unique view on Bitcoin, because you have the technical angle, but you also have the financial angle. So how did that come to be, like the two angles that I think not a lot of people just have the view from both of these sides?
Yeah. So it really, if I go back to the origin story, it's that I was browsing Wikipedia one summer, the summer before my junior year in high school. So that's 10th grade for you number people.
Yeah.
The featured article on Wikipedia was anarcho-capitalism, and it immediately piqued my interest because it seemed very edgy, right? And I was like a teenager, so it sounded like something I should get interested in. And I read through it, and it became clear to me that it was my ideology, that I was born an anarcho-capitalist, and I had just discovered that was the case. And it took me to links to Mises.org. It took me to Ayn Rand. So I read, Atlas Shrugged, and I read Human Action, Ludwig von Mises, but also I listened to a lot of podcasts, which is crazy to think about. In 2005, I was listening to podcasts, and they would put out audio recordings of lectures from Austrian economics and anarcho-capitalist intellectual thinkers. And so on my daily commute to and from school, and even like between classes, I'd listen to these lectures. Huge nerd, obviously, right? Simultaneously, I got interested in open source free software, Richard Stallman, installing Linux on old computers. So just more nerdy stuff, putting together my own computer and doing that stuff. And I didn't get into programming at that point. I was just into doing like command line, apt-get install, but
yeah.
And also, I actually do remember getting PHP 5 and MySQL working and making a basic CRUD interface at that point, but didn't really get super interested in it. No, but I didn't really have any use cases for it, so it was hard to stay motivated and actually, learn more. And then, I decided to major in accounting in college because when I was reading Ludwig von Mises, it became clear to me that economic calculation, profit and loss, those are what drives, the whole system. And so I figured that having a pretty solid understanding of double entry bookkeeping and accounting theory would long-term benefit me, and also not a bad way to start a career, salary-wise, and just
true.
So got my bachelor and master in accounting, and my last year of grad school, I never really joined libertarian groups on college campus. It seemed like a waste of my time to me. But I was on Facebook, because that's not a waste of my time, right? I was on Facebook, and I did join, the Facebook groups of libertarian Longhorns, and I thought that, this kid, Michael Goldstein, was putting out some pretty pink memes with Ludwig von Mises on them. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I guess these people are smart. And then they started the Mises Circle, which was an Austrian economics reading group. And I remember I learned about the Mises Circle because in a chemistry lecture, I randomly sat by a libertarian guy. Oh, no, it was not random. I was wearing a Mises.org t-shirt in college.
Okay.
That's a terrible
thing
to be doing.
Of course you did.
But that was my poor judgment
Pretty
at
dumb.
the age of 20 or something.
Not very smart.
In any case, so caught the eye of another student who was a libertarian, and he was like, "Hey, you should join the Mises Circle. They're starting that." And that's where I met Michael Goldstein and Daniel Kraus and others as well. Others who actually are into crypto, but they're not as big names, so you wouldn't know them. But I know that they got interested in it anyway. So after I graduated college, I started at this Big Four audit firm called Deloitte, and so
yes.
everything I say here today represents the views of Deloitte. Actually, let's go ahead and put that up. They can't fire me anymore.
True.
Anyway,
Cheers, Deloitte.
that's how to make yourself cancel-proof. Always make the public think that you work at your previous employer, not your current employer. That way, they'll try to get your previous employer to fire you, which is inconsequential. Anyway, so I was at Deloitte. I was auditing securitization deals. So these were mortgage-backed securities, asset-backed securities, and making sure that the loan documents matched up with the bond prospectus, which was being put in front of these institutional investors. And at the same time, the summer before I started, I wanted to write my own Bitcoin accounting software because I was into Bitcoin. I had bought some Bitcoin off of BitInstant. I bought some Bitcoin off of Coinbase, and I wanted to be able to. And then I'd use Bitcoin Core as Bitcoin Qt as it was called back then. Not because I was hardcore run your own node self-sovereign. I had no clue what I was doing. It just seemed like the default wallet and the most used wallet. So I just downloaded that and ran it. And then it was like, oh, I have to, wait for it to sync. Okay, that didn't seem controversial to me that I would just wait for this wallet to sync for a few days and then come back to it and receive some coin. Apparently today that's extremely challenging, but this accountant who had his master's in accounting, who granted, I had installed Linux, many years ago, so it's obviously I was not a technophobe type of person, but in any case, so got on that, and then wanted to write Bitcoin accounting software, so I needed to learn Python, so I did Codecademy.com, and then I did Flask tutorial that Michael Goldstein sent me. It was like, hey, Michael actually was a computer science major, so he's way smarter than I am. I should have been a computer science major, with the benefit of hindsight. The reason I didn't do that is because my readings of Wired magazine had told me that all of the jobs were being outsourced to India, and so it didn't seem like a good idea to become a software engineer in 2000.
That was an oversight.
2007 or whatever. With the benefit of hindsight, it's pretty clear to me that India's software engineers are great, but there's still lots of opportunities here in the U.S. for software engineers.
There are.
Anyway, I guess in any case, we didn't know that at the time, but Michael made the right decision of going to computer science. And he taught me this Flask tutorial, and that taught me web development. It taught me, relational databases and stuff like that. And eventually, so at work, I started writing Python scripts to automate the manual data entry work of scraping PDFs and putting that data into Excel spreadsheets. And I built these scripts, and they worked pretty well, and I was sharing them with my coworkers, and management came to me and said, "Pierre, we're really happy that you're taking the initiative on this automation work. Having said that, our strategy is to outsource to India." I'm not even joking. I'm not even kidding.
Right.
And so that's kind of the paradox there. So I was like, all right, well, now I'm a disgruntled employee because I don't want to be manually doing data entry and training someone in India. I want to be coding. I just realized how much, leverage being able to write some software it gives you. So
True.
at that point, I got contacted by a recruiter on LinkedIn, which normally, one would be wise to ignore such contact. But having said that, it caught my attention because this recruiter was working for BitPay. And I knew about BitPay at that point, and I knew that they were like this cool Bitcoin startup in Atlanta. And they were looking for someone who knew some programming, knew some accounting, and could help them with their Bitcoin accounting. So that's when I left Deloitte and worked there until they ran out of money and had to downsize. But that's what happens in bear markets. With,
Yeah.
You gotta adjust to the wave. So then I came back to New York and I worked at a high frequency trading firm called Trading, doing accounting and programming there. Then I really wanted to get like straight up software engineering job, with a product in an actual startup.
Pierre, I think you might be having some audio problems. I think you might have some connection problems, right? Yeah, it's not just me. I'm not hearing you very well, and it seems like other people aren't either. Could you maybe, I don't know, is there anything running on your internet connection right now?
No, I'm not. Let's see. Is this a problem?
Yeah.
Hello?
I guess if you were, you could maybe try to like just exit the app and come back. Maybe that helps. I don't know. I'm a very technical person, so that's my idea. Okay, he probably left. So, oh great, I can't unmute you. That's good. I wanted to unmute you, but I can't. The button wouldn't press. So I'm just gonna throw things at you. He'll be back in a moment. Does anyone speak sign language? Because you can interact with your hands. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's take a selfie. Let's take a selfie. I'll do a selfie.
We're unmuted actually. We're unmuted.
Oh, yeah, you're unmuted now. I don't know what happened, but somehow you're unmuted now.
Hello. Selfie time. Selfie.
It wasn't just me, right? You couldn't hear me. You couldn't hear him well, right?
Yeah, he was very
That's right.
everyone.
Yeah.
He
It was
was
pretty
bad
bitty in and out.
These new avatars are so cool.
Ah, it's Bitcoin censorship.
Oh, Felix.
Hello.
Who's Felix? This is Felix? Actually, it kind of looks like Felix.
Hey.
Yeah.
Felix just yellow.
Yeah, just yellow. Simpson Felix.
Are you, Felix, are you aware that you muted? Maybe he thinks that you're speaking.
I did hire a expensive VR consultant from Twitter to design the
Can you guys
avatar.
hear me?
Yes.
We can now.
Udi,
No,
can you come down from the podium? I want to add you.
Bipping,
because I
can
don't
you
think
see
we're
me?
friends yet.
Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you.
Yes, here I am.
My screen is like almost completely black. I can kind of see you guys. Has that happened before?
epicenter in Miami?
Nope.
You're on
Nope.
PC or on
Big
this?
King, what up?
On the vibe, I don't know. As long as I
Yeah,
can
full
can see me.
distance.
Are we taking a selfie or what's going on?
Oh, I wanted to take a selfie, but then you got unmuted and I was surprised and I forgot.
Well, yeah, let's take a selfie though.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, smile. Just smile. Just smile. And woo.
What are we doing? Oh,
Yeah, I think you're facing.
Hello, testing.
Okay. I'll try it again. Hey, Pierre.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Yeah, it does sound better. It does sound better.
Nice.
Sounds better?
It's gone.
All right.
Continue.
Two different cameras these days now. Two cameras. This is forward
yeah, I know.
facing
It's
camera.
Okay.
Now, ideally, I would be able to connect my Oculus to Ethernet, but I don't know if that's possible.
I don't hear you.
Probably not. Yeah,
I know. I wasn't speaking.
probably not.
Can you hear me?
Okay, let's
But your
see.
mouse is moving.
Okay, people are talking. It's annoying me. I'm gonna mute
Yeah,
them. Perfect. Okay, that's how I love you guys. Quiet. That's great. Now we can move on. let's punish Pierre for being technically inconsiderate. And
You know, I have gigabit Ethernet, so I don't really have any reason for having a problem here.
well,
I'm gonna blame you. I'm gonna blame.
Sure.
I'm gonna blame Cloudflare.
you gonna blame who?
Cloudflare.
Ah, sure, Cloudflare. Yeah, maybe they're still having like shockwaves from yesterday.
Hmm.
Could be. Okay, so you were signing at BTC Pay, and then you left BTC.
No,
Pay.
no, no. Hold on.
BitPay. Sorry, BitPay.
Whoa,
BitPay.
whoa.
I'm sorry.
Whoa.
That's a big one. That's a
Whoa.
big mistake.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, forgive me.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I moved back to New York. I worked at a finance company. I worked at a fintech startup. And then I was like, you know what? I've got so many people asking me about Bitcoin that I should just, leave my day job and just talk about Bitcoin full time.
Right.
And then spend some time working on open source development as well, and figure out like cool projects I can work on. So I did that for a while, and then the opportunity came about to join Kraken and to kind of continue doing that, but in the context of a global exchange, which seemed extremely interesting because, Jesse's built an amazing team. It's now over 1,000 employees, available
That's
in
a
like
lot.
almost every country that's not, sanctioned. And it's, one of the biggest Bitcoin liquidity pools now. And I love Jesse's vision and, all the people that I work with day to day. So, it's been a fantastic ride. And it's not something that if you'd been like, hey, Pierre, high schooler Pierre, you know how you're interested in sound money and gold and silver? All right, there's going to be a digital gold that's going to come out, and you're going to end up working at one of the, biggest venues for this, trading, firms for this, and your job will be to talk about the asset. I'd be like, no, come on, kidding me? No way. Yeah, no, you just talk, and obviously I do some internal work as well, but I can't talk about that stuff, and that's really something I miss the most about just being out on my own, is I can just talk in real time about what I'm working on. But it's good because it's gonna be bigger things that are gonna happen. So I just gotta be patient, and we'll talk about it when it's ready.
Yeah. So that's a good segue to my next question, which is, it's not about what you're working about. It's a general question that you might be able to have some thoughts on. So, so you have, some things about exchanges. You also used to work on the Lightning Power Users thing and the node launcher thing. And I wonder if you think that we would see Lightning on exchanges anytime soon, and just what's it going to look like? How are people going to use this as opposed to?
So I do have
using
some
Bitcoin
pretty strong
normally?
opinions on it, and to be clear, there are lots of people at Kraken who are very knowledgeable about Lightning, so I'm very excited about that. And I think, though, in general, if we think about kind of the macroeconomics of Lightning and Bitcoin on chain and exchanges, at the end of the day, it comes down to the deposit and the withdrawal, right? And what are the frictions there, and what are clients looking for? Because all of these exchanges, they want to serve clients. Like that's the kind of that's their business, right? Is providing excellent client service in every form that takes, whether it's an actual interaction with a live person, in a Zendesk, or if it's actually the day-to-day trading on the web interface or through the API, and I think that if you look at the documentation, the public documentation for Kraken, in some of our documents we emphasize that Kraken's not a wallet, and that this is really a trading account, and that that's not what we're catering towards as being a wallet. So if you look at the withdrawal fee currently at Kraken, it's at much higher for Bitcoin than for other assets on there, and also across exchanges, which is interesting because it's actually people are willing to pay that, right, when they're transferring Bitcoin. So I think that the economics of deposit and withdrawal have like some inelastic demand to it, but it's also like, what kind of business model do you want to have? Do you want to like just charge people on trading, or do you want to find other sources of revenue? And different exchanges are going to have different like philosophies and try to appeal to different clients based on this. Suffice it to say that the reason that we would add Lightning, or an exchange would add Lightning, is really about two things: the speed at which you could send and receive the Bitcoin, right, and the cost at which you could send and receive those Bitcoins. And that's actually the same reason I think anyone would use Lightning, right? It's not an exchange-specific thing that, those two. And there is a third part, which is not as important for exchanges in general, is privacy. But it is actually another benefit that I think users should, be thinking about and demand. On Lightning, right now, routing fees are not like 10 times or 100 times less expensive than on-chain on average. And we don't really have like a permanent backlog of transactions in the mempool, and so we don't have fee pressure, which would drive everyone to look at Lightning more, right, and to try to figure out how to use it in day-to-day operations. I think how that would look like, and I don't think it needs to be more complex than this, is that if you want to send Bitcoin to an exchange, that you're able to do that with Lightning, and then if you want to withdraw Bitcoin from an exchange, you can do that with Lightning. I think that that's like, without having to get into channel management and all of that. I'm hoping that all of that goes into autopilot, so that exchanges and really anyone using the Lightning network doesn't have to be doing manual channel management. And the notion of having Bitcoin tied up in Lightning is not different than the notion of having a Bitcoin hot wallet, right? And so then there's really less engineering work for anyone who wants to use Lightning to actually benefit from it. So
right.
I don't know what the latest is on autopilot because I haven't been as diligent in keeping up with it. And I kind of also have left my Lightning Power Users node to just do its own thing and not even like try to fine tune anything. And it's kind of organic, where people rebalance around you, so you actually might not necessarily need to do as much balancing. I don't know if that's like tragedy of the commons or if they're making money off of me, but I feel like it's Lightning Power Users. It's not on the actual autopilot feature, but it's just kind of doing its own thing. I should check in on it more often. But in any case, I think that it's just a matter of time that we have enough Bitcoin, mempool fee pressure to drive more interest, more volume onto Lightning. And then there's like features like, I know that Wumbo is becoming more and more popular, which make it so that, and then atomic multipath, I think, was also a huge improvement in terms of improving the capital efficiency of putting Bitcoin on Lightning, so that it's not seen as being like so onerous that you have to, carefully manage your liquidity.
Yeah. So
and then there's the
hopeful,
boring stuff. Yeah, the boring stuff is like the accounting, right? Yes. It's like, okay, do we have to hire someone to build out our accounting for the Lightning wallet because it's different than the Bitcoin wallet? And it's like, all right, well, ideally, no. Ideally, it's just kind of plug and play, and we don't have to deal with those levels of detail. But we'll see how it evolves. I don't think there's urgency to adding Lightning. I know that everyone on Twitter wants to be like, hey, when Lightning? When Lightning? It's like, I think that the urgency will be when there's fee pressure. And that's kind of it. I don't think that developing Twitter mobs around this is a good use of anyone's time, even though I like Twitter mobs, and I also think that when there is fee pressure, it is appropriate to inform exchanges about their different options. Whether it's batching or SegWit or any other kind of scaling options, Lightning, but we're just not there yet. So cool your jets.
To softly inform exchanges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To educate the public, and there's yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that some Twitter viewers are not happy with that answer, and they might cancel you. So this is the first thing you might be canceled for. But
do we want to get into more cancel stuff?
I think you want to. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so
I feel like you want to.
Yeah, I kind of do, honestly, because I think that when I wrote Speculative Attack in 2014, part of what a speculative attack is that you borrow in the cheap currency, in the currency that you think is going to crash, and in order to buy the more expensive currency that you think is going to appreciate in value. And so, like, George Soros did this, as a currency speculator of, betting against central banks. And the way I thought it would happen is that people would borrow fiat against their bond portfolio and buy Bitcoin with it, right? So that's kind of, and maybe that's happening somewhere. I haven't heard about it. But what I have heard about is people borrowing against their Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin and leveraging up. And
yes,
that's bad because it creates reflexivity where if the value of the Bitcoin is decreasing, you're going to have to liquidate your collateral by selling that Bitcoin, and that will cause the price of Bitcoin to continue to go down. And then you have cascading liquidations like we had on March 12th, where the Bitcoin price flash crashed essentially because of this leverage. So on the other, so it's kind of bad from that point of view. On the other hand, it's the reason this is happening, despite this cascading liquidation problem, is that Bitcoin's better collateral than a bond portfolio, or than a house, or than any other asset that you could use as collateral, and for all of the same reasons that we talk about, right? Which is seizure resistant, censorship resistant, permissionless, sound money. So it's actually great collateral, but the price is volatile and people are borrowing fiat against it. So this is not something I anticipated when I wrote Speculative Attack. It didn't really cross my mind that people would borrow fiat against their Bitcoin. If you had told me that at the time, my reaction would be, who's gonna lend the fiat to you? Like, that doesn't make any sense, because if they think that Bitcoin has value, then they would just go buy Bitcoin with their fiat. They wouldn't lend their fiat to you for, whatever 12% interest rate you're paying. And that, it's so volatile, who would, even allow you to use that as collateral? But what they've done is doing, very conservative over collateralization, where you can borrow, like 50% against, or they have the BitMEX casino approach of like 100-to-1 leverage, and having a very aggressive liquidation engine. And yet, we saw it go down on March 12th. So maybe that needs to be improved or something. But in any case, it's clear that there are people willing to lend fiat against Bitcoin. Now, how they're sourcing their fiat, I mean, let's face it, the global financial system is having trouble finding yield. And in fact, there's a lot of assets that have a negative yield today. And so it makes sense that you would have people who are like, all right, I think Bitcoin is kind of silly, but if someone will pay me 12% interest in fiat terms, I'll lend against their Bitcoin, because even though I don't believe in the asset, clearly there is a liquid market for it, right? It is being traded. Right. We know there's real volume for it. So I could actually liquidate this pretty quickly, you know, if things go south on the price. And there's enough price history at this point to also create risk models of, all right, what's the probability of Bitcoin going down to $1,000? You know, you can attach a probability to that. Yeah, obviously, there's no way to know if that'll be true or not, but it's not like finance bros have not done this before of attaching a probability to, you know, a basket of subprime mortgages going bust.
Right.
In any case, all this to say that, you know, people who are concerned about leverage in Bitcoin, I understand their concerns, but it's also like a manageable risk. So it's not something that I'm like outspoken about of, oh, you know, we should not be lending or borrowing in these markets. With the caveat that in Bitcoin's history, we have seen Ponzi schemes that promise interest. And so that's where I think that people kind of get concerned is that, oh, well, this matches a pattern I've seen in the past. But I think that they're only partially matching the pattern because there are actual, and this goes back to Austrian economics, like there are people with differing time preferences. There are people who want to borrow from the future to spend today, and people who want to lend today in order to borrow or to spend tomorrow, you know, in the future. So that they want to spend more in the future. And it's like
interest is a thing. Well, it's not always a scam. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the price, right, between those two groups. And there's an order book for those. And the interest rate is going to go up or down based on supply and demand of loanable funds. And so it's kind of odd to me when people get ideological about it, and especially like Bitcoiners, because they conflate the lending market with fractional reserve banking. And so you know, maybe there's some reasons for why they conflate those two, and maybe there's legitimate reasons. But I think that you know, we should actually try to talk about those as separate topics because I don't think that they're always the same thing.
But I have a question for you, Pierre. Wasn't this going to be about cancel culture?
Yeah, well, I mean, people will try to cancel me for saying that leverage is okay.
Okay, I see. Okay. Now I get it. Now I get it.
Yeah. Should
people
I
want to
come up
cancel
with
you
something
for
more
saying
controversial?
No, I
Are these
I
not
don't feel
hot
it's
enough
that
takes?
controversial. Can someone show me emojis? What do you think about leverage, good or bad? Because I don't feel like it's that controversial. I don't see anyone annoyed. Okay, we have one person who's ready to kill you for approving of leverage. So it's not a lot. Two people. I'm seeing two people who three people might cancel you.
Yeah, you know, yeah. I guess I don't need to belabor the point, but I also think that, you know, there needs to be more products that are more responsible. So like we don't necessarily need everyone to be doing 100-to-1 on BitMEX. There's got to be a safe space between that and not being leveraged at all. And maybe it's like the collaborative custody model with Unchained, which I think is really neat. So that's, we can think of other topics that are even more controversial, I guess.
I have a controversial topic. I have something.
Altcoin?
So look, no altcoins, no Tron, not today.
Okay.
But so I have this pet peeve about Bitcoin nodes, and you mentioned that before. How for
they're
you?
unusable.
Yeah. So that's what I think. I think they're unusable. I think no one should run them. No, that's actually not what I think. But look, I do think that they're kind of difficult to use. I'm sorry for saying this, and I know that I might be canceled by the end of the talk, but I think they're kind of difficult for you to use for most people. You were trying like in the past to make it easier, like with the node launcher, and a lot of people are trying to make it easier in various ways, and that's very cool. And I can see it becoming easier over time. And you had this tweet lately about how it's much more difficult to run a Fiat node than a Bitcoin node, right? I'm paraphrasing, but I think that was pretty much it.
Okay, well, let's clarify that I think it's infinitely harder to run a Fiat node
yes,
than a Bitcoin.
Yes.
Infinitely.
Yes, that's true. Yes, you can't. You probably can't do it.
Yeah. So, but I think that
Do you see people do it? Do you see like people running, like everyday people, or I don't know, everyone who owns Bitcoin or most of people who own Bitcoin will use their own Bitcoin node?
Well, let's start from first principles of why should someone use their own node, right?
Right.
And okay, let's cancel Pierre over saying this of, hey, there's a lot of people that can just use a block explorer.
Ooh,
Is that controversial?
That's bad. I think we have cancellation. Yeah. Okay. No, I agree. Okay, go ahead.
And okay, so let's start with that of like, if you are concerned about you don't trust the person sending you the payment when they tell you, hey, I sent it, you don't trust them, or you just want to like get some peace of mind, that you could go to blockstream.info or others that we can't name, and that will only further the cancellation. And if you're concerned about your privacy when you do that, you could conceivably do it with a Tor browser. But okay, so then it's like, all right, what if I don't trust Blockstream? Okay, well then run your own node, right?
Yeah.
Like who doesn't trust Blockstream? I've never met anyone who doesn't trust Blockstream.
Well, you're saying really bad things today, Pierre. I mean,
anyway,
this is recorded, right?
More seriously,
Yep.
The other part is wanting to do stuff with it, right? So, like, if I want to be able to know Bitcoin's monetary policy, frankly, because of ideological reasons, right? I'm like a sound money guy, and I want to have the peace of mind with regards to total supply. I don't even have to want to receive Bitcoin. I might not own any Bitcoin. I might be a no-coiner, and I still want to like know about this sound money and independently verify it because I'm paranoid. Like, I think that everyone's always lying about everything. It's really hard and we see this with the coronavirus, like basic facts are very hard for everyone to agree on for some reason. So running a node apparently is a necessity, even if you're not worried about a state level actor or even, getting man in the middle by someone between you and Blockstream or something crazy like that, that you would want to run your own full node just because the world has turned to relativism, total subjective relativism on every single topic, scientific or not, and especially monetary, right? So the history of monies is one of perpetual abuse by the issuer. And so if you want to address that concern for yourself personally, and you want to check that the miners are not creating Bitcoin out of thin air without trusting anyone else, then you got to run a full node. So now, why did I, work on the node launcher? To scratch my own itch. And so I think that most open source development is about scratching your own itch. And that's perfectly fine. If people want to find a way to monetize running a node because they know that there's a set of clients, right, of consumer demand out there for running a node, whether it's like, a Casa hardware node or maybe a cloud node, maybe we need to see more of that where on services like DigitalOcean or Amazon Web Services, they could make it more easy to run a Bitcoin full node in all sorts of ways. But then it's different trust models, right? And different cost-benefit analysis to running on your own metal, on your own cell phone or whatever. But yeah, I think that like I don't have really an ideological point of view on it because I think that people ultimately will run a node when there are negative consequences for them not doing so. And I want to make sure that they always have the option to run their full node if ever there are negative consequences so that they have that available to them. But I don't feel like they need to be preemptively preparing for that necessarily.
Right. Okay, I can. That resonates with me. I'm not going to cancel you. I think a lot of people are, but I'm not going to cancel you for that. I'm just having, this list of what you should get canceled for and what you shouldn't. So.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's-
it would be really cool if we saw more work done on like desktop software, Node UX, or any other format, really.
True.
There's always improvement to be made, and I hope that companies like Kraken, did a sponsorship for BTC Pay Server that has a full
True.
node in it, and it's just like, okay, how can we find ways that by bundling the node, and this was kind of my thesis with the node launcher as well, if you bundle a full node with other things that are useful, then you kind of create an effect of getting people to do it all. And my node does this as well, and all of the hardware nodes have gotten into this, like, hey, create a platform for people to run their sovereign applications. And if you bundle all this together, then it creates a compelling package, whereas the node on its own, you might have been like, well, it's not connected to anything. Why is this useful for me?
Yeah. Okay, we reach agreement. We agree. I wasn't sure that we'll agree, but we did. So I'm glad. I am. I don't know. I do have to. The title of the interview is savings technology. So I do want to ask you, you say that a lot. And what do you mean by Bitcoin being savings technology? Why is it, a better savings method maybe for people than other, financial instruments that could use?
Yeah, so if we start from kind of first principles, there's three things you can do with Bitcoin. You can receive Bitcoin, you can send Bitcoin, and you can hold Bitcoin. So that's kind of, I'm sure that there are people who are like, well, time stamping and, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
How dare you assault our utility? But I'm just talking about, like, what do people actually use Bitcoin for? Will that get me canceled?
Oh,
Maybe.
I'm out of space in my note, my cancel note. So,
There should be like I guess we need to have like a bitcoincancellation.com website where we can document who, like, okay, we canceled Jeff Garzik for these reasons, and
Yeah.
here's a PGP signature from notable influencers, and formalize. We would have cancellation tribunals. Hey, we're putting you on
it's true
trial.
because you sometimes forget why people are canceled. So
Yeah,
it's good
and
to
you need
have,
to have due process
a
around
record
it.
of that.
You need to have evidence that's verified.
Yeah, you're right. Let's do that. So savings technology.
Yeah. When you're saving, you're holding Bitcoin. It's like that one step in between receiving it and sending it. In economics, when you hold cash, that's called savings. Now, is Bitcoin cash? So I think Bitcoin is the real cash. And the reason I know that is because the white paper's title says that Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer cash system. So I know that holding Bitcoin is saving if you follow the logical route there, right? Now, people find this really upsetting because they think that saving should always be something that it has a stable purchasing power over time, and that anything else is investing. So they are misguided. They are wrong, because investing is when you do not hold cash. You send your cash to someone else in return for equity or debt. Those are the two kind of investment contracts that you can enter into, big picture. And that might take the form of like, oh, you're doing a joint venture, it's a partnership with your buddy from law school or something, or you're investing in the S&P 500 in a diversified, mutual fund or whatever. Or you're lending your money to a bank and earning a little interest on it. or not earning interest on it, or they're actually stealing money from you. But in any case, it's investment because you're not holding cash anymore. You're either holding a liability or you're holding equity in some other third thing. Or second thing, actually, really, when you think about it. Yeah, holding cash is saving, and Bitcoin is great savings technology because of the fundamental properties when you're actually holding those Bitcoin. So, if you're doing the multi-sig and you've got a really secure private key storage setup, then your Bitcoin are very seizure resistant. It's going to be very hard to take the Bitcoin away from you without your consent, without you actually, wanting to do that. So that's great. And then the other part, that happens is that your Bitcoin is dilution resistant. So someone else printing Bitcoin won't dilute you out of your Bitcoin like they would, because like even if you had fiat, physical cash, and you were really good about securing it, and it was very seizure resistant, the government could just print a bunch of cash anyway and be like, oh, well, we don't need to seize your cash, so we just
I hear
created it.
that happened recently, in the recent past.
Yeah. So they print money. Breaking news.
Yeah.
Out of thin air. So that's kind of the other element of being good savings technology is kind of the 21 million Bitcoin. And that's why stock to flow determines the future price of Bitcoin.
Oh, you brought up stock to flow. I wasn't ready for that. I thought we'll do it later, but if we're doing it now, then okay, let's talk about stock to flow for a moment. Let's go there. Let's go there. So, I think that the stock to flow model is ridiculous, but I have no idea what it is and I can't explain it. So, in a moment, I'll tell you why I think it's ridiculous. But I think maybe not everyone here is completely like me. So I think some people are probably like me, uneducated. So maybe tell us a bit about the stock to flow model first, and then I'll troll you about it.
Yeah, but before I even explain what it is, let me be clear that I was being facetious and tongue-in-cheek in saying that it determines Bitcoin's future price. But I wanted to troll, and I wanted to get canceled. So anyway, those are the two modalities in the modern cyberspace. Now, what stock to flow is on day zero, when Satoshi created the Genesis block, the stock to flow ratio was 1 because it was like a flow of 50 and a stock of 50. Although I don't know, maybe the stock was 0 and the flow was 50. So maybe we got to adjust our lens there. But in any case, you can kind of see the ratio started very low, and then the ratio went up. So when the next block was mined, or the first, well, the Genesis block was technically not mined. It was like hard coded into. So when the first block was mined, do we have to be this pedantic? Because otherwise, I'll get canceled, right? If I'm not technically correct.
Yeah, you have to be correct. If you need a moment to Google it, then do it, because you need to be very accurate.
People will say, actually, it was not hard coded. That's the wrong word. It was soft coded.
Well, it was hard coded, but it was hard coded with proof of work, so technically it was mined.
I love it.
Love that. Yeah.
It was not broadcast to the network. Isn't that anyway?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the stock to flow ratio goes up over time is kind of the takeaway there. And the rate at which it goes up varies based on both how much the hash rate is increasing relative to the difficulty adjustment being able to keep up with it. So that actually does affect the stock to flow in the real world. Although if you just look at the formula, right, of block reward to block height, you wouldn't see that because you don't have that time element. And then there's also obviously the halvings have a big effect on the stock to flow, where you have a discontinuity, a jump in the stock to flow ratio, between blocks, basically. And so what was discovered now, okay, let's back up. When Seyfedin Ammous, who is the most intelligent economist in the world, wrote the Bitcoin standard, he actually knew that that wasn't sarcasm. That
No,
was
I'm just I'm just
actually
throwing snowballs.
yeah, it was sarcasm in the sense that I think he would agree with me that there are some Austrians who, we are standing on the shoulders of these giants.
Yeah. There's some
um,
established economists over the, does it include like past economists too? Like how do you?
Only the good ones, not
Okay.
Keynes.
Like, is he the best of the current ones or like of all time?
So, I mean, obviously he's the best contemporary Bitcoin economist. Is he the best contemporary Austrian economist? No, because there are some. Well, he's very young. Like he might be
True.
in 40
In a few years. True.
But he has
True.
to build up greater literature, and he's on his way. Also, I think that Bitcoin, if Bitcoin actually does win, right, and we go on the Bitcoin standard, then just de facto he'll be the best Austrian economist, in history because he's the one who called.
He'll be the only one.
Well, yeah, he'll be the only one who wrote the Bitcoin standard, and it was the biggest change in macroeconomics in human history. Really, if you look at it, so that will upset all of the haters. All of the anti-Seyfedin people will be like, "Oh, he's overrated." Other people, and we'll ignore them, and we'll laugh at them for being so salty. Anyway, and we'll eat steak. God bless Seyfedin. So he wrote in the Bitcoin standard. He wrote that about the stock to flow ratio without quantifying anything, which is standard for Austrian economists, right? Because Austrian economists don't know math. No, I'm kidding. Seyfedin does know math. He got his PhD from Columbia. He's not and his PhD was in something like mainstream environmental economics. It was before
I downloaded my PhD from the Pirate Bay. So
what?
It's better than mine. I downloaded my PhD from the Pirate Bay.
Oh,
so his is better.
That's as did Craig Wright, and Craig Wright's very intelligent.
True.
So, anyway, where were we? Yeah, stock to flow. So after Seyfedin wrote this, then this pseudonymous quant called Plan B came out with a piece saying, "Hey, there's a correlation between stock to flow," and then this other quant was like, "Yeah, there's a correlation, but it's spurious." And then this other quant said, "Yeah, there's this correlation and it appears spurious, but actually it's not spurious because you can do this thing called co-integration." Now, I'm not a quant. I'm just repeating what they're saying, right? So I have no way of even verifying any of this. And
I think I won. I didn't even say anything, but I think I won the debate.
What do you mean? There's no winning here. We're all losers.
True.
Anyway, then this other quant said, "Yeah, there's correlation and co-integration, but you can't actually use this co-integration test with this specific set of data because of the discontinuities due to the halving. And so you're inappropriately using this this co-integration test." And then Plan B said, "I have this other model called S2FX, and I haven't read the paper on it yet, and I should. So that's where things stand." And then people said that S2FX doesn't have enough data in it because it's 3 or 4 observations or something. And then Plan B said it doesn't need to have more data because I'm just talking about order of magnitude. So we have a really wide margin of error here. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. That I still think Bitcoin is going to go up.
Okay. So look, I'm going to be honest with you because Reckless VR is all about honesty. And I'm going to be honest with you. I couldn't follow any of that, but I still strongly disagree with the model. I feel very educated about disagreeing with it. And mostly just I can't see how you could possibly predict the future price of Bitcoin at any way, other than of course number go up, which I'm not gonna say that it's not gonna go up, because then I'll be canceled. So yes,
We're in a
I
bull
predict
market.
that
We're
it's
in a
going up.
secular bull market.
Yes.
We just
When
had
are
the
you asking me
halving.
when?
No. I'm saying we currently are in a bull market. Is my view. Let's talk about the price. Let's be those chart people.
Yeah, so the price right now, I guess it's bullish that it's not crashing. That's bullish. That's not usual. So I guess that's something to be proud of.
Or did
but
you have
that's-
another topic? Did you? We're talking about stock to flow. I guess that's why we got onto price predictions. But
I have one more thing. And then I'm going to open this to questions. So like the last thing, it's kind of connects to the savings technology thing. So, I mean, I know the answer, but do you see Bitcoin as something that should be actually in everyone's portfolio, like something that every person should own some of it? And now we can just say yes.
Yeah, but it's kind of also a matter of like how, right? In what way? You could make a really strong argument for if you want to. So this is a point I've been making with various people lately, is that we talk about Bitcoin's fundamentals and about the censorship resistance and the fixed supply, and you can benefit from those fundamentals without exposing yourself to the full price volatility of Bitcoin, because there is a derivatives market on Bitcoin. And like I hear Bitcoiners like get really upset about derivatives. I guess this goes back to the leverage, right, that we were talking about earlier. And I've taken coursework at a graduate level in derivatives, and I insult universities a lot, so don't assume that means I know what I'm talking about. Because I've never been a derivatives trader. I've only read about them, and but I think that they make economic sense. So like it's about risk transfer, and it's the process of figuring out the price of risk is an entrepreneurial process, and it's a market like any other. So in any case, what I tell people is that they can own Bitcoin, they can hold their own private keys, they can run their own Bitcoin full node, and they can also, buy puts. And by buying puts, they will make sure that they have a limited downside, so that if Bitcoin crashes to below, $5,000, that they are able to cash out and avoid losing all of their money. Because there's people who have different risk tolerances, like they're not young 20-year-olds who work at a startup as a software engineer or whatever. They might be someone who's in their 50s and they can't just bet a bunch of money on Bitcoin. Even if they believe in the fundamentals, and what derivatives allow them to do, if used correctly, is they can still get exposure to the upside. It's just that they're paying a fee to insure themselves against the downside, which is totally reasonable. So in terms of being in everyone's portfolio, yes, it should be in everyone's portfolio based on the fundamentals. How it should be is going to depend on your personal situation. And do you have a mortgage and a family, and you need to prepare for, or are you in your 80s and you need to prepare for retirement, or you want to set aside some money in case you have a disability or something, and
right.
There's all sorts of personal considerations. So, and then also you got to actually earn more money than you're spending, right? And have a portfolio in the first place. I think that's maybe the thing to bring up more, is that everyone should figure out how to cut their own hair, or how to not cut their hair, so that they can save more money. And that's what that meme is. To me, it's like we need to add this meme. We can't just stop at HODL. We also, or stacking sats. We also have to have extreme levels of frugality that, to the external world are pathological, but we know that they make sense because Bitcoin's going to go up in value.
Because of the stock to flow model.
No, because of the fundamentals.
Yes, I know. Okay, I know. I was testing you. Okay, good. So, yeah, I like that. I think that's a good time to open this to questions from the audience. So, what you're going to see is a button on the right bottom of your screen that says raise hand, and you can click that, and then I'll be able to let you ask questions. So let's see. The first one is from Alex. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm right over here. Hey, Pierre, thanks for it. Was really nice to hear about your background a bit because, we see you on Twitter and whatever, and I didn't have that context. Yeah, I'm very sympathetic with this whole meme of cutting your own hair, and I can personally attest to the fact that I definitely became more frugal once I got into Bitcoin. But, there's something that doesn't really make sense to me, and I want you to comment on it. As you're progressing in life, you're getting diminishing returns on the value spent, meaning that ignoring inflation, of course, $10 when you're 10 years old, it's way better than when you're 50 years old, right? Then there should be this balance of like, what's the point in being rich when you're 50 years old, where you can't walk properly or something, right? So what's your take on that? Because there would be some things that you should probably do in your 20s and spend money on because it's really not worth it, What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, so different people are going to have different opinions on this. For example, my 2-year-old son thinks that I should spend money on his toys and that he should have some toys. I disagree with that. But no, I'm kidding. No, I spoil my 2-year-old. I spend a lot of money on my son. So it's like there's kind of maybe I'll get canceled over this. Like you should spend your Bitcoin. You should spend money. And it helps the economy. So in economics, everyone has a marginal propensity to consume or to invest, and so at the margin, right? So it's at the margin that it matters. And if you were to look at how people's behavior is affected by inflation, I think that it increases their marginal propensity to consume, and deflation decreases their marginal propensity to consume. It does not remove it. So maybe it would be the case that if I did not have, or if I was not knowledgeable about Bitcoin and its excellent fundamentals, and that I wasn't motivated to save money, that I would buy more toys for my son. Now, I do buy plenty already, so maybe I would spend more money on other things, like I would own a bigger house or own a luxury automobile, or go on exotic vacations and become an Instagram influencer. But because
not with that beard.
Not with that beard, no. So I actually would argue that the way to square that circle is that rather than being more frugal, you should make more money, okay? And then that way you can actually enjoy your life while you're young and growing, and also, save up for the future. And so how to make more money, I'm starting a paid Telegram group for pump and dump. And we're going to 10x, 100x our money. That way you can spend and save. What do you think,
Great.
Udi?
I'm loving it. As long as I'm getting
no,
free
actually,
access,
let me balance that with real advice. Learn to negotiate. I think that's how to make more money. Is you actually have to learn to negotiate. So, Google how to negotiate. Find highly rated books on Amazon. Like read up on how to negotiate. Practice. Rehearse with other people, and you'll make more money over time, regardless of what your profession is, right? Because in any profession, you're going to have to negotiate.
True.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with that, but I feel that this meme and this whole mini culture against Bitcoin of just that and set, keeping your head down and don't spend money, be extremely frugal. I think it's pretty much amidst the fact that you could also like create more value and get more value, you know, and the meme just gets transmitted as like, I don't know, be a bomb pretty much all your life, because, you know, one day when, you know, when you're really old and you can't walk, you're going to be rich then, but it won't matter. So I was just wanting
Well-
to commentary against that. I was caricaturizing the meme, if anything, but yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna get more content about making more money, like there's a whole part of Twitter that's all about the hustle. You know, you got to follow the hustle Twitter, and you'll learn how to make more money, more so than the Bitcoin Twitter, because the Bitcoin Twitter is going to kind of just talk about Bitcoin and stacking sats, and being frugal. Now, maybe you're right that like I'm over-indexing on the frugality, and that I need to start retweeting some hustle porn, as it's called, of motivational seize the day, you know, and all that stuff. And then Udi will unfollow me because, you know, he doesn't want to follow a self-improvement Twitter. I also,
True.
okay, here's the other thing. The reason why I emphasize the frugality, right, is because all our lives we're fed this Keynesian nonsense. And the Keynesian nonsense, they don't say to work less and to spend more. They just say work more and spend more. And I'm saying, okay, I agree with the work more part. I'd like to work on the other part of the equation where they're always trying to bully people into spending their money. And I don't really have anything against spending money. I'm anti-savings. So I have a problem with people being anti-savings. And so I that's why I feel like the frugality part, it's also it's like triggering for Keynesians of me saying lower GDP number and, you know, increase your Bitcoin stack, and to like defund the system that way by spending less. But it's, you know, it's Twitter trolling in a way, because I do spend money, obviously. Otherwise I would be dead. Yeah, I spend less than I otherwise could, but I don't see that as like being hypocritical to say, hey, I bought a VR headset. You know, it's like people are still going to spend money on things. And then you got to prioritize, right? And you got to think when you're spending your money, the other part to emphasize would be to spend your money mindfully, right? To not just engage in mindless consumerism and, you know, social status seeking and trying to impress others, versus actually thinking about what's going to bring day-to-day joy to your life and spending your money on that, so then you don't have some hole in your life, you know, for just seeking luxury goods or whatever. Spend money on hobbies. You know, like if you like gardening, like plants are not expensive. You can spend money on that and have inexpensive hobbies and things like that. Yeah.
I love the frugality tips going on here. And if you can, just don't even spend money on plants. Just, you know, just imagine the plants, and, you know.
No, Udi, you got to take it next level. You know, you'll see videos on Twitter of people looting stores. What you can do is actually you can go out into nature and you can loot nature. So extract plants from nature and move them to your house.
Amazing.
They call it theft, but I disagree.
Then you can sell them too. Becomes income.
There you go. Now you're hustling. This is the kind of hustle porn that I like, you know, and that we should be tweeting about.
Exactly.
You'll
start. I'll join you. Okay. So Alex, thank you for this. And the next one is JC. Go ahead.
Hey guys. So my thing was about your comments on Lightning Network, on Kraken. In my opinion, it's not just about, you know, whether everybody's using it or not. It's also about just the fact that it's better. So, you know, if I could get in an exchange and out of an exchange practically instantly, it's just far better than sitting. One of the things I hate the most about when I have to put money on a Bitcoin exchange for whatever reason is waiting for the exchange to tell me I actually have money coming. It's the most like nerve-wracking thing. Like, see it in the block explorer, confirmed already. Maybe the exchange still doesn't even show that like anything has happened yet. It's just like all this stuff. It just goes away with Lightning. You send money, they get it. You want to withdraw, the exchange doesn't have to deal with all the extra UTXOs. You know, you just get your money, charge you 100 or 200 sats, whatever. It's very convenient, and you get your money. Aside from that, also there's the fact that a lot of people are using Lightning, and the more services like Kraken that lead the way on giving us something to do with it, or more things to do with it, that brings more people in. So it's not just, you know, hey, let's wait until everybody's using it, and then it's not just waiting until everybody uses it and then also adding it. It's also you add it and more people use it. So there's, you know, there's that aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that what we get into is issues of prioritization, because, you know, there's always a lot of different projects that any business could be taking on. My hope is that with the next bull market, that, you know, first of all, the price is going to go up, and the trading volumes are going to go up, and the revenues for exchanges are going to go up. And just mathematically, that means that exchanges are just going to hire more, and that we'll have more bandwidth and more resources available to us to invest, you know, in projects like this that I agree would improve the UX, but they currently are not a priority because there are lower hanging fruit in terms of improving the UX, right? And so I do kind of see it as like an iterative process for across the industry. Like even with on-chain transactions, for example, how many service providers have integrations with hardware wallets, you know? And I think that there's just a lot of different ideas around how to improve the products, but it's not like it's not like exchanges have an infinite amount of money to put towards every single project, and so it's really about trying to find balance. And you know, we need to be more frugal so that exchanges can make more money off of trading volumes.
How did you spin this into being frugal? This was it was very skillful.
Yeah, if we spend less money at local barbershops and spend more money at Kraken.com, then we'll get Lightning faster.
That's a very interesting take. That's a very interesting take. I'm never getting a haircut again for Lightning.
Right. Yeah. You got to think big.
I'm doing it for Lightning. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So thanks, JC, for the question. And next up is MZ.
Hello, over here.
Yep.
My question is, what do you think about the fungibility of Bitcoin? How important is it? And for example, what about pay join on exchanges, like improvement for fungibility? Maybe even more important than Lightning.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's so many different parts to it. First of all, I just don't even like the that word fungibility, because I think that like Bitcoin is just de facto fungible today, and when people start talking about chain analysis and freezing funds and whatnot, to me that's not. To me, fungibility, a break in Bitcoin's fungibility would be a on-chain blacklist, right? Where you just cannot, you get your, at the network level, at the consensus level, a break in fungibility, right? And that to me is what fungibility really is about. And so I don't even think that's a problem. To me, what's a problem is privacy. And I feel like the conversations about privacy are often just focused about on-chain transactions and, you know, in that world, in that context. But I question whether someone purchasing, you know, a privacy coin on a KYC exchange, you know, like what's their privacy threat model, right? Who are they vis-a-vis? Who are they trying to be private? is kind of my line of reasoning there, where I think that with Bitcoin, when I think about who I want to be private with regards to, it's not Bitcoin's privacy is good enough. Let's just put it that way, right? But I also think that it has a lot of room for improvement, and that it could actually get to a point where it would be private enough to even have state-level actors in your privacy model, and that would be fantastic. I think it would be great to be able to have that level of privacy without any compromises on usability or on convenience. And I actually think that the long-term engineering fundamentals of Bitcoin and of cryptography will get us there. So I just think that it's a matter of investment, and it's excellent that, I heard that there was a grant from Square Crypto to improve Bitcoin's privacy. So I hope that there's continued investment in that space, and even in BTC Pay Server that Kraken gave a grant to, they've been improving the privacy of BTC Pay Server as well. So there's just going to be a continuous process of improvement at every level, right? There's kind of like the peer-to-peer network level of improving privacy there with Dandelion, and then you've got privacy at kind of the Chainalysis level with mixers and PageJoin and breaking heuristics and inputs and outputs and all of that. And then I think that it's probably going to annoy some people to say this, but I think Lightning is a bit of a silver bullet with regards to Lightning, or with regards to privacy. And that, yes, there have been some academics who found some issues with Lightning privacy in theory, yada, yada. Those are going to be improved. And, eventually I think that they'll be, we won't really have conversations about insufficient Bitcoin privacy and people bringing that up to, as a criticism of Bitcoin.
Okay. So thanks, MZ. And the next question from Waxwing. Go ahead.
Hey, up here. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hello? Yep, we can hear
you. Me? Yeah, great.
Yep.
Yeah, so just this is a very general question, but just based on the fact that you work in the trading, the exchange industry, what's your perception? Because you briefly mentioned it earlier about buying puts and so on. What's your perception of options contracts as they exist today and as they might exist in the future? My sense is, I know, for example, there's Deribit, and there's like more institutional grade stuff. But my sense is that perhaps we're waiting on more advanced technology, things like, discrete log contracts, that maybe at some point we may be able to get like really high quality, deep liquid options markets involving not too much trust in third parties, which would be kind of revolutionary if so. And as you say, it would help like risk transfer, and people could, maximize their profile of what they're looking for. What do you see at the moment? What do you see in the future?
Yeah, I didn't know that you were a DeFi maximalist. But
no, I'm just talking about options contracts. I'm not talking about DeFi at all, but okay, if you say so.
I'm kidding.
Don't you know discrete log contracts? You mean discrete log contract stock?
I've never used a discrete log contract, but I've
they're still being developed.
That this would be a way to bring DeFi to Bitcoin, right? And to have our own Chainlink oracles. Okay,
Jesus, you're terrible. You're awful today.
We were talking about oracles in 2013, a long time before those idiots turned up.
Okay, they're not idiots. They are Marines.
Yeah, exactly. You get it.
So anyway, I know they will attack me on Twitter if I say anything bad, so I gotta be good. So I more generally, I think that I don't know. I haven't heard of this being a problem, right? So I have heard of issuers of currency inflating the supply being a problem. I haven't heard of like systemic issues with regards to derivatives trading that have not been addressed via iterative centralized processes. And it's not an intractable problem like the currency issuer problem seemed to have been in the past, before our Lord and Savior Satoshi Nakamoto figured it out. So I feel like it's kind of a solution looking for a problem.
No, I categorically disagree. I categorically disagree.
Okay, all right. I'm all
It
ears.
is a massive, it is a massive problem, which is why we've seen over years and years and years an endless string of exchanges come up, issue, email accounts, then they get taken over, then basically the thumb screws get applied. You cannot support like a Bitcoin to fiat trading system without having this massive KYC AML invasion, this sickness. It's disgusting. It's an absolute disaster, and that's why I'm talking about. I'm not saying what we have today is like not functional. I'm just saying that it just doesn't work over a long period. It gets worse and worse. I mean, look what happened with Tether and Bitfinex.
Yeah, so that's fair. I think that the reason that decentralized solutions won't be able to compete with centralized ones is that for that kind of marketplace, I think that you want to, first of all, a product that is highly scalable in order to have liquidity at scale. And I'm skeptical that decentralized solutions can be that, and that they would have the low latency in a decentralized system necessary for the traders that want to use these things. And that even centralized systems sometimes struggle with scaling. So to expect decentralized systems to outperform there, I'm skeptical. Now,
yeah, but that was never the argument. I was never suggesting for one moment that it would be better than a centralized solution. Of course, it's way worse. But it's just like the whole dark market thing. Right? The reason it exists is not because it's good. It's because there's no other option. I don't think there will be an option long term for Bitcoin because they will attack. They're attacking us now. They've been attacking us for years, and they'll keep doing it.
Oh, okay. So I mean, we can talk about like governments. To me, like governments, the reason governments attack is because they want to take your money. That's really like what, and they'll talk about, we want to protect consumers as well. Okay, let's grant that argument for a second, just out of diplomatic, diplomacy. But I think that at the end of the day, like the reason that they want to have systems centralized is so that they can tax them and extract value from them. And that, to me, means that they have to let centralized systems exist. Otherwise, if they squash centralized systems, then they lose their ability to get revenue because they push everything into being decentralized. So that's also like why I think they're going to legalize drugs, is so that they can tax drugs and make money off of it. And that's kind of like what drives the economics there, as cynical as that is, because obviously public health matters with regards to drug addiction, and consumer protection matters with regards to making sure that trusted third parties are actually performing what they have legally contracted themselves to do, and not abusing their users. The decentralized solutions have to compete with the centralized ones. And it very well may be the case that there's going to be a substantial niche, or it might even be like that decentralized solutions turn out to be so much superior to centralized ones because of the automated execution and the more restricted trust model than centralized solutions. They will outcompete and they'll dominate the marketplace. It's possible, or that like there's some kind of Frankenstein's monster mashup of centralized solutions and DeFi solutions interacting with each other that like optimizes for the amount of censorship resistance and that part of it, while also allowing highly liquid, scalable trading. I don't know. TBD. But I agree that like it's funny because here's something that'll get me canceled, right? People say, "Oh, DeFi is horrible." I think that experimentation is good. I think it's great that they're experimenting with DeFi because it's giving us intuitions about what there is interest in and demand in, and that
Keep talking,
even if
Pierre. It's fine.
well, so it's part of the market process, right? Now, do these protocols need tokens? Personally, I don't think so. But right now, quite a few of them do have tokens. I haven't experimented with them personally, so that should uncancel me, right? That I haven't gotten my hands dirty. But that I do think that they give us a vision into the future where, okay, if we actually do have more advanced scripting capabilities in Bitcoin, what is that going to lend itself to in terms of products that can be built on top of Bitcoin? Now, do I think that that's more important than hodling? Like, no, and that's why I wouldn't recommend someone, hey, sell all your Bitcoin to fund DeFi research on, layer 3 of Bitcoin. But I do think that it's going to happen because people are going to want to scratch their own itch. That's ultimately now. I think that why is it happening in DeFi? Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, could I sort of drag the question a little?
Yep.
Could I drag the question a little bit back because the original framing was what is your perception as somebody in the industry of the current state of the sort of specifically options market and how it might evolve in the future. And the reason I was asking that was because I think it's a very interesting and valuable market to have, but I suspect today it doesn't really exist. And I think probably a large part of that, I mean, there's Deribit, there's a couple of things, but it doesn't really seem to.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say was I think part of the reason for that is that there's a very strong like regulatory control over these kind of derivatives markets, even further than just like a direct simple brokerage, right? So therefore, that's why I was saying specifically, it wasn't really about decentralization. I was specifically saying, is it possible that we could see a future develop where other models arise which don't get hindered by this kind of very heavy regulatory, throttling?
I wish I could say yes, but it just seems like empirically what's going on is that people find it easier to VPN into something they're not allowed to do than to come up with a better solution.
That's a good point.
Now,
but then you have to have a a jurisdiction where that's possible. I mean,
and maybe that'll change, right? Because maybe the U.S. government will be better about stopping people from VPN, accessing whatever website. But and if that were to change, maybe we would see people spend more time, building more robust solutions that are more censorship resistant. Now, maybe that just ends up looking like the Silk Road for options, right? Like, oh, you just Tor into this website and, you accept the latency of Tor because they're trying to deplatform us. So,
then there's no liquidity.
I love the idea of having on-chain, solutions or decentralized solutions too. I just got to see it to believe it.
Well, yep. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. And well, there are some other questions, but we're running out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up. And if Pierre doesn't run away, then you're more than welcome to ask him any other question. But Pierre, this was fun. It was fun to have you canceled, and it was also fun to just chat. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming. It was great. And thanks to JC and Andans and Ben and Andrew too that helped around with moderating and stuff today. Don't forget we do this every week, so you can sign up on recklessvr.com and get invites directly to your mailbox or reckless_VR on Twitter. And yeah, we're gonna. It's a bit late, but still we're gonna meet up in VR chat in about 15 minutes. Pierre, I hope you can join us. And that's cool. That's great. So the way we're gonna do that, I'm gonna send, as usual, I'm gonna send the message on Telegram when we can meet in VR chat. It's gonna be in about 15 minutes. You can stay here or take a break until then. And that's it. I'll see you next time. And I'm gonna unmute everyone. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Enjoy your newfound voice.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang out here until VR
Yeah.
chat starts. I
Yeah, that's
guess.
what I was
Unless-
thinking. I know.
Does this room get
Yeah.
closed?
No, you can just stay.
But what is Bcash? No one knows about.
I know. Like the new Comcast bar.
Green is now cash.
Yeah, and everyone can come on stage too if you feel
Yeah,
like it.
we should do that. We should all push.
There's
to
fireworks
make
over here.
BTC also green coin, just making them completely like